Yeah, hi everybody, it's Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video, I'd like to look at the USE Minis, in particular the YM, and I'd like to take a look using our MTP RT add-ons for NinjaTrader 7, which is what you see here. So initially, it looks like we had a couple of buy setups here, but the STF was red. Now, when you're new to MTPredictor, you come in and use the STF color as a gauge of the larger trend direction. So for new MTPredictor traders, you'd have avoided these as the MTPredictor STF was red, indicating a large degree downturn. However, for the more experienced MTPredictor customers among you, and this is what we teach in our training webinars, and it's what we were discussing yesterday, we actually we know that the STF, like any other indicator, is always going to be lagging. So after a sharp fall on the open yesterday, we always know the STF is always going to be in the wrong direction. It's just the same with any indicator. So for this, we go to our larger degree chart, which in this example is our 15-minute chart, and we then place our DPs, which are leading indicators. In other words, they're on the chart in advance, and we use these to gauge our larger trend direction, and this is what we did in the webinar yesterday. So this is a 15-minute chart of the YM. We can see we had a rally up here, and if I put the Elliott waves on, again it's very easy there, you can see this was a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the high here unfolding right at the minimum wave 5 WPT, so it was nice that we caught that high. However, the market has since declined down, so it's declined down very nicely indeed. Now, once it goes past the DP from the wave 4, which is what we had on our chart there, which was where we were wiggling around on Friday, our next target is the DP from the prior, or it retraces the entire prior 5-wave sequence. In other words, we go right back to the start of the 5-wave sequence, which is here. We place our DP on our chart from here. Now remember, that was actually on our chart before the market even opened yesterday. So before the market opened, we had this level on our chart in advance. And just look what happened. The market came down, came right into that area, and then rallied for the rest of the day. This is why in yesterday's training webinar, I was talking about having this 15-minute support zone. And because the 15-minute support zone was there, we were looking at taking the large degree trend is up. Therefore, what I was suggesting is that we should have been looking for long trades yesterday. So do you all see that? Large degree support coming in that nailed the very low of the day yesterday. Therefore, we're looking for short-term buy setups. I'll just put a little rectangle around this, and you'll see why in a second. And what that means is when we come down to the shorter term chart, which I'll do in a second. Okay, let's now go down to the 3-minute chart. And as you can see here, the 15-minute DP nailed the very low of the day, and that's where the area was where the market rallied for the rest of the day. So this is what I said in the webinar yesterday, is because we had 15-minute support in here, we should now be looking for buy setups. And this is why we can avoid or go against the STF color, because we know we have larger degree support coming in here. And as we can see, there was a TS2 buy setup here. So if we put the analysis on, this trade setup would have actually resulted in, let's take the worst case scenario. You might have put your stop to break even because we were well past the 100% initial risk level. But let's assume you didn't and you were stopped out from -1 R loss. Position sizing here kept the loss small and under control at just what we call one risk unit. It then came down and gave us another buy setup here. Let's place the analysis on. In this case, the market went up beautifully to hit our first target, where a lovely 8.9 R profit was available. Let me just make that, let's make those a little bit bigger. So if I just do that, I'll just make the font size a little bit bigger. As you can see, that's a little bit easier. Place the analysis on again. So there you can see the market came in here. It gave us a buy setup. Remember, we use correct position sizing to vary the number of contracts, lots or shares to keep our initial risk small and under control. This meant going long 11 contracts. Market went up into the first target, and even at the first target there was a lovely plus 8.9 R profit. The STF was weak, therefore you'd want to come out at the first target. If you had decided to basically run this up a little bit further, I'll go back to the 15-minute chart in a minute and show you there was actually a TS3 sell coming in there, so you would have wanted to start to trail your stop a little bit closer. But let's just take it at this particular level. So here we were with our larger degree trend support coming in advance. That then set the trend to be up. We were then looking for buy setups for the rest of the day. TS2 came in here. Let's take a worst case scenario of a -1 hour loss. The next setup came in was our TS3 buy setup here. That then went up to the first target very nicely for a plus 8.9 hour profit. So with a profit of almost 9R and a small -1 hour loss earlier, it was a very, very good day for the US minis yesterday. So that hopefully has given you a good example of how we can trade our 3 and 5 minute charts in the direction of the 15-minute trend. And for experienced MTPredictor customers, we don't use the STF because we know that's lagging just like any other indicator. We go to our larger degree time frame, which in this case the 15-minute chart, and we place our DP on these 15-minute charts to get support levels or resistance levels in advance. And as you can see, that caught the very low of the day yesterday absolutely beautifully. Market then rallied, and there you can see came up into our TS3 sell on the 15-minute chart. So a very good example of how to use the DPs on your larger degree charts to give you support and resistance areas to then gauge your trend, and that will get you in the correct direction for doing your trades on your shorter term charts. And as you can see yesterday, the result was a very, very nice plus 8.9 hour profit off that TS3 sell. So a good example of multi-trend analysis using the MTPredictor RT add-ons for NinjaTrader yesterday.